Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of The Stash Report from The Stash Project. Today is July 16th, 2018. Yeah, we did sort of skip last week's show. I was going to go ahead and record one anyway, but there really wasn't enough to justify a show, plus last week with my own work. Hey look, I can not have a wrist brace, yay. And my birthday. You may proceed to leave your happy birthday comments in the down below. You missed it. It's too late. Anybody who watches the channel who actually did, wish me a happy birthday at some point on like my personal Facebook page, thank you for those. It was a week ago now. Well, 6 days ago now, so don't worry about it at this point. And then, just everything. There really wasn't a whole lot going on within the context. My phone just started ringing. Within the context of the releases and news and things like that to really justify a show. Today is a national holiday in Japan, so we're still a little on the light side, but we've had enough things come out domestically as well as overseas to justify a show. Plus, we have a few things that we need to discuss in terms of what's going on in the hobby that I felt, it warranted an actual show. So, we're talking about those things first. I know, that'll disappoint everybody, but, just skip ahead till you see pictures show up, if you or you see the Notebook of Knowledge pop up. I'll make sure I wave it in front of the camera when I'm done ranting. That way you can skip ahead if you don't want to hear it. But there's two things I want to talk about real quick, in the sense of me being quick about anything. One would be the near constant complaining I'm seeing lately about the fact that the new Revell via Blitz, as well as Mobius, since it's been sold to Pegasus, have not been forthcoming with their future plans at a rate of speed sufficient to satisfy the whiny masses within the forums and a little bit of the Facebook around the edge. Nothing here I've seen on YouTube itself, but things I've definitely seen on the forums and a couple things on Facebook. Look, both companies are private. They don't have to tell you anything. The fact they share anything with anybody at all is their own prerogative. I don't know where any of you people have been in terms of Revell being forthcoming with information for the last, 55 plus years they've been in existence. They've never been really public relation-y. You could get out to an NNL East or an NNL North, or, pop in to the right club meeting in Chicago and maybe catch Ed Sexton or somebody else from the old Revell and have a conversation with them and maybe come away with more, insider knowledge than you had going in. But they've never been really, really public. Mobius, of course, was a great deal and is a great deal more public relations savvy in terms of at least the forums that they participate with via Dave Metzner. But still, at the same time, they're under none of these companies are any obligation to tell you anything other than here's the kit that's coming, Shazam, and here it is. Look at Tamiya. Tamiya does not share information with me or really anybody else except the people that build their test kits, who can then, whisper in certain people's ears about things that are coming, in the future. I know a guy in Japan who is currently right now building out the Nuremberg ring, or Nuremberg 24 Hours edition of the new Hobby M6, new being new decals and a few new parts. And so I've seen, what that looks like, and the new parts do definitely include fender vents, which is what the whole point of that kit is anyway. And the fact that it looks like it will have a regular windshield in it, because the timing or position indicator thing that the 24 Hours of Nuremberg car rings, I call it Nuremberg ring, it was the racetrack name, but the 24 Hours of Nuremberg ring is on the actual top of the windshield, and it made me very suspicious of the fact that it may have a completely different screwed up windshield in terms of having that position indicator there. There's nothing wrong with the position indicator being there in the 24 Hours of Spa car. It should be there, but it really sort of C-blocked the ability to build things outside of Blancpain Endurance Series cars, because Macau cars, Blancpain Sprint cars, the Nuremberg cars, Asia GT, Australian GT, British GT, World FIA World GT, all those things did not have that. This from what I've seen, has a decal that has sort of position indicator thing built into it, which you will then further decal to put position, the position of the car into. And therefore, the windshield, at least, is good. Now, whether or not they're going to make the side windows have a position indicator, because that is where the bigger one would be, remains to be seen. At the time that I talked to my friend, the clear pieces were not available for the kit. He was basically making a windshield out of acetate for it, effectively. And so we'll see where that goes. Right now, they're still working on the parts and everything, and there's no real set release date on that, despite the fact that Hobby Easy thinks it's coming out in basically a week. So that one, not going to make it for July. So, but again, not a lot of, media savviness there. That just happens to be a guy I know who happens to be being asked, to do a build. I could talk about it because he's posted it publicly on his Facebook page, so I'm not releasing any kind of secrets. But, Revell was never good about that. Mobius was. And here's the thing. If you've been paying attention to certain forums that Mobius hangs out on, you would know that, A, there are 2 sets of big rig tires coming. One is going to be a super single set for a trailer, 4 wheels, 4 tires. Super singles, for the uninitiated, are those great big fat tires that trucks have these days, over-the-road tractor trailers have, that instead of having a set of duals or 2 tires, there's 1 great big tire. So they're doing a set for trailers, and they're doing a set for tractors. The tractors will have a set of steer tires. Regular looks like, mostly, from what I've seen, a regular set of steer tires, not a set of high floats. And then it'll have another set of 4 wheels, 4 tires to make super singles for your tractor. So those are new. That's not something that existed in the past. And also, they are expecting at any time from China, from the tooling place, to get their first round test shots of the next iteration of the F-Series pickup truck kits. These will be the 65 or 66, 67 Ford kits, right? So clearly, even though they've been sold to Pegasus, and maybe Pegasus isn't, they're kind of in a lull, right? They had to get sold, everything had to get inventoried, everything had to go through, and now we're seeing them pick back up again. So new wheels and tires for the big truck kits. They are going to reissue both the dry van and the reefer version of I want to say Fruhoff, but that's AMT, of the trailers that they did. They were supposed to be Great Danes. So they were supposed to be a trailer, and they weren't branded, but technically the decals they are. Reissue those 253-foot Great Dane trailers, and now you're going to get super single tires for the trailers and for the tractors. The tires and the wheels are going to be sold separately, like the tires were with their other tractor-trailer tire sets. So, there's new stuff coming. Plus, you have the test shots coming in for the Fords. Obviously, they weren't going to say anything about the Fords until they got the test shots. And then they can decide whether or not they want to release that, those test shots to the general public or not. They're not under any obligation to tell you anything. I see this all the time with threads being started with, these kits were mentioned in passing 6 months ago. Why don't we have them yet? And then, somebody else will be like, they must be going out of business. They're not talking anymore. And it's like, you guys, they're not obligated to tell you anything, first. And second of all, they're not going to tell you anything until they know something more. This is the one thing about working, across a date timeline, going from the United States to China, is the fact that obviously they're in a different language. But second of all, they're also 13 hours behind us, or in front of us, depending on how you look at it. And it's tomorrow over there. Right now, I'm recording this at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which means it's 3 a.m. in China right now. Yeah, there's... Stuff has to be sent to China, stuff has to be done in China, stuff has to get sent back. Then it has to be revised and sent back to China, and it has to get sent back. And it's a lot of back and forth international parcels, and it's not exactly the most expedient way to do things, but it is, what it is, seems to be, at least in their minds, and what was Revell's minds at the time, the most financially, expedient way when you're talking about budgets and things like that. So, there used to be a point in time where you knew about the kit releases when you got, and here's a name that, the place still exists, but a name that will conjure back memories, Hobby Heaven. Remember, Hobby Heaven used to have a self-addressed stamped envelope thing you could send away for. They printed out a list of kits, and it always had the new stuff in it. And then eventually they started taking out basically what amounted to full-page 2-page ads in Scale Auto Enthusiast and things like that that would list when the kits were coming and what months they were expected to be out. That was how you found out about new kits, was via printed magazine or via a newsletter buying, mail order list that you sent away for with a self-addressed stamped envelope so they could send it back to you. Internet, 24-hour news cycle, instantaneous, gotta know. Sometimes you don't, and then deal with it. Go back to, build something. You got enough stuff to keep you busy. When they know, when we know, we'll let you know. Trust us. We're not gonna just like, oh, hey, you know what? Remember that one Mobius kit that came out? Yeah, no big deal. I'm not even gonna talk about it. At least here, we're always gonna cover this stuff. If you don't hear me talking about it, that's because there isn't anything to talk about in terms of the development of the kit. The second thing, and the more larger problem that we've had, is the fact that the JR Salvino's, or Salvino's JR, however they want to pronounce their company, I think it's Salvino's JR, their kit is out. It has been released. We'll talk about it here in a second in terms of the actual kit itself. But the kit, as we talked about in passing, has a couple of known technical issues going into it in terms of the suspension in the rear being entirely incorrect and the bumper on the back also being incorrect. There may be some body lines that, depending on what car you look at and what light and what angle, exist or don't exist. On the kit they don't exist, but in pictures sometimes it can look like they don't exist. So a lot of people are arguing back and forth about whether or not body character lines are supposed to be there or not. The kit has been released now, and now we have seen the actual contents of it, and it's kind of a mess. And I want to say up front, this isn't directly a bash against the company or the kit itself. It is the factual information as it stands. The chassis is in 2 pieces. This will strike back to a lot of people to the old NPC NASCAR kits, because this chassis is designed to be modular, meaning you glue the back half onto the front half at differing depths to adjust the wheelbase of the car. That chassis is riddled with more sink marks than any 5 model kits I personally have seen in the last 10 years. It literally looks like Swiss cheese that was not punched through entirely. Now, several people pointed out, have I not heard of putty before? Yes, I have, but in 2018, paying for a model kit that is priced at $40, I shouldn't have to do that. The technology exists that you do not have to do that. They've chosen to put all these ejector pin marks on the bottom of the chassis, like as in the part that faces the bottom when you put it down. So I'm okay-ish with that. It's not, to me, the big deal breaker it is for a lot of people that I've seen, because in terms of that arrangement, the part that you would see through the windows, the business end of the model itself, the interior, is not going to have any, and it's not going to have any ejector pin marks on it. The 2-part chassis, I understand the principle behind it. I don't necessarily like it, but I understand the principle behind it. It's very easy to create one piece of tooling that then the builder himself adjusts to the correct depth, and it saves from having to tool up an individual chassis pan for each individual kit. Saves some money. I understand that. Don't like it, understand it. Because there'll always be an issue of how secure is your glue bond at that attachment point, because it doesn't look like it's like really beefy attaching. It looks like it's going to be some butt joint, basically, of trying to put the kit together and then having the chassis literally fold in half and snap your drive shafts off and things like that. So there's that issue. The other issue with it is that the transmission tunnel is ridiculously large. It looks like you're trying to put in a tractor-trailer engine in there, but it is what it is. The front suspension also turns out completely, totally not accurate for the car that it represents. The excuse that we're getting from the company is the fact that this whole thing started as a project for a Mopar project. That's why it has like a torsion bar front end setup on it. And at some point, this whole project was changed to an Oldsmobile. And then it was going to be Richard Petty's Oldsmobile, but they couldn't get the licensing in time. And the only people that could give them licensing on short notice was the Baker family, and that's why the kit is what it is. That's a lot of malarkey wrapped up in bullshit as far as I'm concerned, because if you start the project as one thing, then you finish the project as that thing. If you want to make the project something else, well, then you start another project. You don't just take the project that's halfway done and then do, oh, hey, I had this new Mazda RX-7 kit that I was going to make, but it turned out that in the middle of it, I didn't want to do that anymore, so I made a BMW M6 out of it, and you're just stuck with half of an RX-7 designed to it because I didn't have the time or the whatever to fix it and make it an entirely, no, that's not an acceptable, not in 2018, not for a $40 model kit. I don't want to hear that. It's just, things happen. I get that, life, all that sort of thing, but this is the old, you guys watch Parks and Rec, it is the whole Ron Swanson, don't ever half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. And this was a half-ass thing of a bunch of things. J.R. Salvino's, or Salvino's J.R. has been, for the most part, deleting every negative comment about the model kit, which is their prerogative, it's their Facebook page, but it looks bad because it makes it look like there's nothing wrong with it, and it's nothing but rainbows and unicorns, and only the positive stuff gets through. That is very, it doesn't make a good look. It's sort of a, we know something's wrong with it, but we can't take the heat, so we're just going to go ahead and sort of whitewash our Facebook section so that it only looks good. The people at Power Slide also put out a statement basically saying that if you didn't like it and you were too harsh about it, then they were going to pack their crap up and go home. You know what? If you're going to be that resentful about the fact that the kit is a mess, it's not a disaster. It's not junk. But it is in the situation where you can't really look at this kit and do anything other than build it as a shelf model. It's that wishy-washy, weak detail that it's not even really a parts kit. You build it as what it is, and that's it. It's not like, oh, well, maybe I can steal the engine out of it or that. No, because the engine and the transmission are a whole other thing, because the engine block is basically half the size of the transmission, or the transmission and the bell housing are 2 times the size of the engine block, however you want to look at that math, and it doesn't represent any accurately depicted anything. It kind of sort of looks like a Muncie top-loader transmission, but very, very poorly done and way out of proportion in terms of length and depth and everything else. Well, I suppose that's why the transmission tunnel's all screwed up, because you have this gigantic transmission and bell housing you're trying to mount in there. I want to be for this, kit, for the company. I want to see everybody succeed, but the fact of the matter is, they're being very, very snotty about the fact that they, it's all been a lot of, well, we know it's a mess, but, we only have so much money and so much time and this, that, and there's all this, but that. It's equivocating. We're not going to make any excuses about this. We're proud of our product, but, we couldn't really do the stuff that we wanted to do, so we made this crappy thing instead. I saw a post from one of the principals of the model company itself posting that, well, Tamiya kit is $80 and ours is only $39.95, and so why you guys can't expect Tamiya quality out of us? Blah 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 blah. No. No. We've talked about this for the last 4 years. Tamiya kits are in fact not $80. Tamiya kits are somewhere between usually $30 and $45. They just cost a lot more here because Tamiya USA F's everybody over by marking the kits up by 100%. I guarantee you, if any of these Salvino JR kits make it into Japan, they will not be sold for $40. They'll be sold for more like $55 because they will get charged that double markup. If you look at any current Revell kit, any current Round 2 kit sold in Japan, those kits are sold for somewhere around $40 to $45. And here in the United States, they're sold for somewhere between $25 and $30. So there's that markup, that almost doubling of price in Japan. It's not going to be sold for $40 in Japan. It's going to be sold for $55, $60 in Japan. I don't know who you people think you're trying to fool exactly, but these excuses are not acceptable. Take the blame, give me a concrete, real thing. Look, we were going to do this, but we decided we'd rather put the kit out half-assed, and so we did. That's what it really comes down to. Telling me that you didn't have time to fix things means that you wanted to rush a product out. You had some fixed time window that you weren't willing to discuss publicly, and you were going to cram it through that window sideways if you had to, just to get the kit on the shelves. And, for a lot of people, it's like, well, so what? You weren't going to buy that kit anyway, so it doesn't matter. The thing with that modular chassis and modular engine and all this other stuff that they've got into this kit, which would be a really neat design if it was done correctly, is the fact that this mess will underpin every other kit that's coming. This chassis, with its Swiss cheese, ejector pin marks, it's going to be underneath their new Monte Carlo with the same crappy looking engine. The they're going to reissue, theoretically speaking, the Oldsmobile as Richard Petty's 1979 car, which is going to be the exact same crappy Oldsmobile kit with different decals. If you don't go back and fix the issues that people have, and these aren't like nitpicky issues. This isn't a question of whether or not you think the Mustang's roof is too low on the 92LX. This isn't, do you think the fender flares are too wide on the 70 Cuda? This isn't, do you think that the front grille doesn't quite look right on the 67 Camaro? This is, this thing doesn't look right at all. It's riddled with tooling issues that, you know, should have been and easily could have been taken care of in a 2018 modern tooling, especially one that was loaded into a side-loading injector machine, which meant it didn't have to get chucked out from the bottom. It got smacked out from the side, which is, you know, infinitely easier to get release from than it is to get it pushed up from the bottom. I don't know what to say. I really want to buy one of these Monte Carlo kits because I'm a big Dale Earnhardt fan, and of course that is Dale Earnhardt's, you know, rookie car. But, you know, the attitude, it reminds me of anybody who is really, you know, well-versed in their complete realm of modeling. It reminds me a lot of how Kitty Hawk acts, where Kitty Hawk made fun of their customers who didn't like the fact that their kits weren't so much designed wrong as the fact that they did just build like crap. This kit may build fantastically, and maybe its saving grace is the fact that when you actually buy it and put it together, it goes together well. But it's just, like I said, I want to like it. I want to root for these guys. I almost want to go buy one just for the, you know, just because there are other liveries coming out for other cars, and I kind of like some of the other liveries. I really couldn't care one way about Buddy Baker. No offense to the Baker family. Great guy. Good race car driver. Just don't really care about that particular car. But what can you do? There's been a lot of things online about how we need to support them because they are an American company making things in America. Okay, that's very isolationist. It's nothing I would not expect out of the American car modeling community in general, because America, Qatar, everything. But I'm sorry, I'm not obligated to spend money on something that isn't up to standards. Well, it's the first kit they made, and I'm sure Tamiya's first kit wasn't great. Well, no, Tamiya's first kits were motorized toys that they turned into models. But they're also 40 years old. When your first kit comes out in a situation where everything is state-of-the-art, everything is computerized design, we're not making 1/10 wood bucks and then shrinking them down to 120, or, you know, we'll string them down to 1/25 scale, there's a certain, you know, there's a certain design on it. You know what the great excuse I heard was, well, it's only one guy putting the money in who has one 3D designer, and there's only two guys, and you should just be there. You know who else sells $40 model kits that have one guy behind the company funding it and one guy who did all of the design work for it? Galaxy Limited. Are you really going to sit here and tell me that Galaxy Limited's kits are riddled with sink marks and ejector pins in really visible places and have weird engineering issues, and they're most of the parts included do not look like the parts they're supposed to? You can have your issues with Galaxy Limited's, you know, body proportions or the way the front clip hooks onto the rest of the model and all that sort of things, and ease of painting, you know, talk. But Galaxy Limited's kits are fundamentally an entire country code closer to Tamiya quality than this thing is. And that's what it really comes down to. If I can buy a full detail Ferrari Enzo or FXXK or LaFerrari for $40, and I could buy this kit for $40, guess what? They should be almost even with each other. And you might say, well, that's not fair. Tamiya has, yes, but Tamiya also is a huge company with a huge payroll and a large design department and a lot more costs than two guys. Right? If JR Savina has done anything with doing this kit, is proved that this kit can be designed, tooled, run, and done in the United States, which is something that Revell and Mobius both swear could not and would not ever happen because the costs would be too high. And yet we see, obviously, Round 2's reissues edging ever closer into the $30 range. As a matter of fact, some of the more recent ones have been over $30 if you're going to be MSRP priced. You know, Revell was climbing very close to the $30 mark. Mobius, when their kits come out again at MSRP, are in excess of $30. the prices, as prices continue to creep up, the issue needs to be the quality has to come up with them, or else they become, then you get into the situation to be able to complain that they're overpriced because the quality does not match the price when I can go buy a $30 Aoshima whatever, and it's a much better kit in terms of both quality, proportions, accuracy, and build quality than this other kit is. I've seen entirely too many displays of the, well, are you a modeler or a kit assembler come out with this? Guys, it is what it is. I'm not telling you not to buy it. Again, I'm tempted to buy one anyway, even though I know that it's not that good of a kit, because it's never going to go. It's okay. It's what it is. I bought a number of Aoshima formerly motorized kits, knowing that those kits will never be contest builds, no matter how good the paint looks or anything else, because they're not really good enough kits, in my mind, to qualify to be done as that. So this kit, if I bought it, would be entirely for building it on the shelf. Because 95% of the people who would ever see it would never know that it wasn't really right for what it is. I might wait till the Monte Carlo stuff comes out to see how the new rear suspension that's more accurate, and possibly the new front suspension that's more accurate, fits into the older Oldsmobile kit in terms of how it actually fits into the old Oldsmobile kit. I mean, it should be designed at this point to plug and play because it's all 3D design. There's no reason that even if you're designing it after the fact, that you can't make it fit the thing that you were trying to make it fit, because you need it to be underneath all of the other kits anyway, to go out and buy another thing. I'm really willing to give them that second shot at the Monte Carlo, because this is a project that they can't, to me, use the excuse of, well, we were rushed into it, because, this is the second one now. You've had enough time to plan. We'll see where this one comes, because they're saying maybe September, October. I want them to be successful. I want them to, not so much because I'm a vintage NASCAR fan and I want to buy American kits or anything else like that, but I just want them to be successful, because the more kit manufacturers there are, the better it is for everybody. It's a rising tide raises all ships equation, and I don't want to see these guys plunge into trumpeter land very quickly. I mean, Trumpeter had the same, we're going to make these kits. Well, this one's kind of mediocre, but wait, it's the first automotive kit. Let's see what they do next. Well, the second one's even more mediocre. Yeah, well, it's just growing pains. So then you got the third one, and it was even worse. Then you got the Monte Carlo, and it's, oh my God. And then the Falcons came out, and the Falcon pickup truck, the Falcomino, as it were, had gas tanks on both sides of the car. And it was just, and everybody eventually made the excuse that, well, they were Chinese and they never saw these cars before. And so, what could you possibly expect? Well, these are Americans who've clearly seen these cars before. And it very, very, very much appears that the way they designed this kit was to take the old Bandit Resins Oldsmobile body, 3D scan that along with the chassis out of a die-cast NASCAR kit, scan that, bust it all up into pieces, and present it as a model kit. All right, well, now it's time to design something from scratch and make it look good. The guy who's the principal designer of this kit likes to go online and brag about how he's got 25+ years of toy sculpting experience, and how if you have a Happy Meal toy, his initials are on it somewhere, and how great it is and how happy he is, and that's fantastic. Now, this is where you put your money where your mouth is, because you ain't gonna, if you get 2 strikes, that third strike, woo, it's gonna get a little dicey. And I don't want to see them go down in flames in like 6 months. I really don't. So, we shall see. And that's enough ranting for now. So, let's talk about, because we'll do the waves so you guys can skip through. Let's talk about kit announcements. We have the August stuff from Aoshima. These are all going to be just restocks. And they are the 2010 Hiace Super GL, the 85 Corolla Levin GT Apex, the 94 Hilux Double Cab Street Car, the 71 Skyline GTR, 75 Fairlady Z Custom Aero, 89 R32 GT-ST Type M, Toyota Crown Athlete 2015, the 2008 Subaru Sandbar Fire Truck. That would be the one that is a obviously small little truck, but it is the one that is the Subaru Factory Edition. The 1981 Skyline Turbo GT-ES, 84 Skyline R30 RSX, 94 Hilux Double Cab Lift Up, that of course the jacked up sort of monster truckish one, the 85 Toyota Truno Toyota Racing Development Kit, Venador Roadster with another run, and the Pagani Wario with another run. And then we have the Hasegawa September stuff. Remember we talked about this being, oh boy, can't wait to see what this is. So there's some interesting things here, at least to me. You're going to get a reissue of the Williams FW14B 1991 livery, 1/24 scale F1. A reissue of the Lola T9050 cabin liveried 1990 Formula 3000 car in 1/24 scale. So that's very interesting there. There aren't a whole heck of a lot of F3 cars to begin with, especially not in 1/24 scale. So that's kind of interesting to see them bring that back out, especially with the cabin tie-in. Cabin, for people not related to it, is a tobacco sold overseas. And, you know, evil tobacco, got to protect the children. I'm assuming they consider that Formula 3000 thing to be more of a domestic market than an international kit, and maybe they can get away with that livery in Japan, where obviously if you're going to sell it globally, like some of the other things, maybe you wouldn't be able to, or maybe they just don't care, because they didn't put the silk cut livery in the Jaguar, so we'll see. I mean, we'll see. The cabin stuff is on the box art for it. We'll see what they, you know, in terms of whether they cared or not. Well, it's just kind of interesting because, again, other places can't do that. You have to buy the, you know, the aftermarket parts for the M3 rally car to get the Bastos stuff in it. So it's kind of interesting to see them put legit tobacco livery in a car. Reissue of the Porsche 962C. This one's going to be the Joust Racing Blancpain, Blancpunkt. The speaker system, radios. I almost said blank pain in there. That's going to be the 1989 World Prototype Racing Series car. A straight reissue of the Subaru Legacy GT Touring. That is the station wagon. That's been out once already. Reissue of their Lancia Stratos rally car. This one's going to be the 1982 Targa Florio Rally. Specifically because this was a race that a young lady named Isabella Bignarelli, Italian, yes, won that race, and it was one of the very few times that a female rally car driver won an event. This one was a more of an Italian national event than a World Rally event, but nonetheless, they've done a couple of these in the past where they are liveries for female drivers, and so this will be another one of those. They're going to get a reissue of the TWR Jaguar XJS race car. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, they already reissued that. Well, they're going to do some expanded livery options here. This one is going to be for the 1982 Motul-sponsored European Touring Championship car. Now, yes, that is more or less the exact same decals that Studio 27 did when they reissued the kit itself a few months ago. But technically speaking, the Studio 27 decals are for the Silverstone Royal Auto Club Trophy Series race, which has very specific Canon markings for it. This is just for the European Touring Championship Series in general and does not have that livery. Now, yes, in order to make the Studio 27 decals be regular ATC decals, you would just leave that decal part off, but it is another option out there. They said they're going to mold it in like gunmetal, which is kind of interesting. A, because molding in color once again, but B, that car was metallic green. It was dark green, just like all the other TWR cars were. So I'm not exactly sure why we're doing that in gunmetal, but I guess that's closer to green than white. I'm not sure. They're going to reissue of the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3 rally car. This is going to be for the winner of the 1996 Safari Rally. And then the one thing on here that's sort of a newish thing will be a modified tooling of the first-gen Honda Civic. This is going to be the Honda Civic GL SC1 CVCC. The CVCC is an abbreviation for their variable engine timing that they put into this car. There's going to be probably about, I'm going to say, 12 new parts or so to this kit. New grille, new front bumper, new rear tail lights, and a couple other little bits and pieces. The SB1 is what they've been doing. The SC1 is a 1978 Honda Civic. It is one of the last cars they made prior to it becoming the Gen 2 Civic. Again, some bits and bobs, as it were, to update the car to 1978 spec. It'll be a street car, not a race car. Obviously, the most recent version of that came out as the little race car that they did for the excuse me, the Team Yamato car. This will be more just a regular, straight up race car. So those are your kit announcements for this video. Now we do have some teasers for a few things, so we're gonna take a look at that real quick. I'll show you this because if you didn't watch our out of the box video, and I know some people don't watch that because it's like, ooh, I'm bragging about model stuff I bought. The GTS R photo etch set from Studio 27 has come out. Actually came out a couple weeks ago, right at the end of the month. And so take a look at it here. It is specifically only for the race car. There was some misinformation on either the translation part or maybe it was just Hobby Search's part that said it was a universal set, meaning it was for both the street car and the race car. But this is clearly only for the race car. And you get a bunch of radiator meshes here. Obviously, they've got the new tie-downs for the bottles, brake pedals, I should say brake pedals, the actual pedals set, brake rotors, wheel hubs, wipers, a couple of different things there in terms of like footrests, obviously a seatbelt set. And this is very interesting in the sense that, at least in this instance, Studio 27 did include seatbelt material, and not like crappy seatbelt material like they usually do, but actual ribbon, the way that BMAX has been doing with their, and Aoshima also, with their seatbelt sets. So it's not just like some weird, like very hard, unpliable, like almost. It looks like it's the stuff that Hasegawa and Aoshima use for press and stick carpeting, except it's not adhesive on the back. So, but this stuff is ribbon material, so it's pretty cool. I'm assuming it's the right color. I don't really know. I need to take it and compare it to the decals for the seats that come with that kit. But it's, again, at least to me, a little bit of an upgrade over the the stuff that you sometimes get with those upgrade kits. The Studio 27 carbon fiber decal for July is going to be this for the Tamiya Nissan R90 GT1 Le Mans car. So it looks like a two-sheeter here. The small sheet having the wing parts as well as the splitter vanes and some interior pieces. The bigger piece there, obviously you have your seat carbon fiber, your bulkhead, a bunch of the inner fender well around the engine components there, and we'll see where the rest of that stuff goes. Little bits and pieces. It's kind of hard to tell without seeing the instructions, but that should be out in either the end of this week or beginning of next week. We don't have a livery decals for them as of yet. Those probably get announced later this week. BMAX, the box art for the BMAX 935 Crummer 2 has come out, showing the other option. Most people know the white Valiant car by now because they've seen it enough times. So this is going to be the other option. I don't know it's going to necessarily be this exact livery because I'm not sure what race this was in, and you know how that works. Livery changes per race. But it is going to be the green Valiant Crummer racing car, so that's cool. Showed this to a couple people, and they were like, "Oh, that's too cliche. That's too popular a livery." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you're trying to sell a model kit, not please the very, very vague livery fans out there. You're obviously trying to sell a model kit at that point." And we also got their photo etch set. So this is going to what the Porsche photo etch is going to look like. One thing I've noticed about this is that the photo etch is attached to the sprue, as it were, with a little tiny attachment points. Usually BMAX's photo etch does not have attachment to the runner. Usually it's on a piece of adhesive background, and that way you can just peel the pieces of photo etch off as you use them, and you don't have to cut them off and then try to diamond file back the little sprue attachments points, if you will. So maybe this is just an early prototype to show what's going to be on it, and it will be unattached. If it is attached, it will be the first time that it's been attached. So obviously, looks like we have bottle tie downs. You got all your seatbelt material. So obviously, there's going to be seatbelt pieces, I should say. So obviously, there'll be seatbelt material in this. It looks like the winglets are on here. Some vents. Not a lot of vents in the car itself. And then you have a couple dozen little fastener tie downs, a little teeny tiny little look like rivet heads, but the body panel fasteners. So that'll be interesting if they actually tell you where those go. Studio 27 tends to not do that when they give you a whole bunch of fasteners. It's just like try to look at the real car and figure out where those go. Speaking, let's go back to JR Salvino's Salvino's JR for a second. They put up on their Facebook page the CAD drawings for the Monte Carlo. Again, I really want to like this, and we'll see what comes of it. So they're going to do a 77 Monte Carlo, which is not a terribly big surprise. Most people realize that, or 78. It's a late model Monte Carlo of that generation. It looks pretty good. Opera window might be a little small, but that's easily fixable with its in CAD stage. So far, they haven't cut the tooling for it, so I don't know how receptive they're going to be right now to suggestions, but I mean, if you wanted to make one, that would be the opportunity. And then also, this is something they had previously announced, but they also showed the CAD for it, is the 74-ish Monte Carlo that has the round headlights as opposed to the square ones. So that was also shown. Again, want to really like this. I'm a fan of this would be one of those things I would buy because I'm a fan of the car. The 80 Buick or the 80 Oldsmobile is like, but I kind of like that Monte Carlo anyway. Spent a lot of time at the local short track, and those cars, when I was a kid, those cars were still plentiful enough, if you will, to be raced in street stock classes. So, you know, it's just a certain personal preference I have for that car. So those will be coming again, maybe September-ish. We'll see what their actual release date ends up being as we get closer. And then one other teaser we have going before going to kit releases is this. This was put up by Belkits today, and showing the two 2017 Ford Focus rally cars that we're going to be getting. Now, we knew about the one on the right, the Monte Carlo World Rally Championship car, but they're also going to be doing a 2017 Tour de Course Autanic and Martin Gervais, or it's not a Q, is it? Gervais car, which is a completely different livery, and also appears to be not so much a different front end, but it does not have the brake intakes on below the headlights. So it'll be interesting to see how they address that within the parts of the kit itself, whether those are going to be a closed-off piece that you'll have to cut out and put the vents in for the Monte Carlo, or if that is just pieces that are going to go over it. Regardless, there'll be a plate piece for the Tour de Course and a vent piece for the Monte Carlo. But it's very cool to see you're going to get two kits straight out of the box from this. This is sort of a given. I mean, it is tooling in the 2018 environment. You have to have at least 2 releases of a new tool to justify the new tool existing. Minimum, I mean, obviously Revell and other companies are doing a much larger non-niche type of thing where they're obviously selling to a great larger audience, want to do like 3 to 5 versions of a kit, because the more you sell, the more money you make. These kits will probably be close to $60, the way the Opals were. That may be way too much money for you, but for the rally fans, they will, of course, eat this up. And yeah, I'll be buying one of each. So end of 2018, so good to see a sort of a date, if you will, attached to it. Be interested to see where the Citroen they announced a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, really, at this point, where that's going to slot in as far as the timing with that is going to be. It looks like, since these are, you know, kind of complete-ish box arts, so I'm assuming they probably have the Ford licensing at this point. So tooling prototypes and decal mock-ups and all that sort of stuff will be coming in the coming months, and should be interesting to see if we get these by Christmas or not. Interesting in the sense of when they're going to actually be out for U.S. consumers. They'll be out in Europe in the end of 2018, but we'll see how long it takes to get them here in the United States. And I believe, as I take a peek through the things, yeah, that'll cover the new stuff. And now we can talk about kit releases. So we have some domestic things here and a few overseas things. We're going to start with Round 2. Round 2 put out this last 2 weeks. This, which is the Fruhoff 40-foot beaded panel, otherwise known as a dry goods trailer. beaded panel was because in this was a interior post van. I know that if you really pay attention to your tractor trailer stuff that AMT or an Ertl and MPC did in the past, there was exterior post vans, and for a long time, putting the posts on the outside of a trailer was how you built them. The fact that this was beaded panel, meaning the sides were smooth and more aerodynamic, and the posts were inside, was a big deal. Back in the day. Now, mind you, this trailer represents something that's from the 1970s. And now, of course, we have composite sidewall trailers and trailers that are 102 inches wide. This would be a 96-inch wide trailer. This is the old trailer that has the wheels on the landing gear. The rear suspension is a working slider system, so you can position the rear suspension wherever you want it to. You have the choice of putting the landing gear up and down. That's a normal thing for this van. This van's been reissued before. This specific reissue is all about the Coca-Cola livery tie-in. Obviously, this is designed to go with the Peterbilt 352 cab over reissue that they just did a few months ago, clearly shown in the picture there with it, because that has the Coca-Cola livery as well. So some giant panel-wide Coca-Cola decals for the trailer, and you got yourself a little Coca-Cola hauler, although I don't think that this legitimately existed, but hey, it's a collector's item for Coca-Cola fans, and it's nice to have the van trailer back. It's been a little while since that's been out. Also, this week, I'm going to check, make sure I got everything before I plow too far deep in here. Also from AMT, you have the Gear Hustler reissue. This is the 65 El Camino. You know, this kit's been around for quite a while, so nothing really new there. You got pad-printed tires, expanded artwork. It's got the Universal Construction logos to tie in with the Blazer and the Bulldozer. It does have color window options, meaning it has tinted glass. It does come with a bed cover. It does come with a hard hat and a six-pack, and obviously this vintage packaging. The knobby rear wheels, which is kind of interesting because it's like, you know, why would you put off-road tires on the back wheels of a two-wheel drive truck? I mean, it's how much traction do you really get from those? But hey, it is what it is. From what I understand, it is the regular kit, so all of the other parts are in it. This is, as far as I know, and I don't want to say for sure because I have not seen the bottom of this, but I'm pretty sure this is the same kit it's always been in terms of having the other options to build factory stock and the drag car or whatever it was, or the custom, one of the two. I can't remember, because like there's I think the parts of this are almost identical to the Super Wagon, as far as like there's a drag version and then there's a stock version, I believe, right? But obviously they're selling this mainly as a tie-in to the Construction series. And then you have from MPC a reissue of the Tiger Shark show car. Apparently the chassis for this thing is off some weird British wagon, or weird British little roadster touring car type thing. You know, I guess, if you say so. I don't know. This is one of these the drugs were good days kind of releases. So on the decal sheet, you got the Redline Firestone tires in there, the rotating display base, which is a rubber band powered rotating display base. Kit is exactly what it's always been, just has the retro box art. Scale modeling at its best, retro deluxe. Yeah. I'm going to say that this scale modeling at its best doesn't revolve around a 50-year-old model kit, but you know, I've seen a few people say they'll buy it for the box art. Okay. You're hoarding at that point if you're intentionally buying things you don't have any intention to build. Then, of course, we have the all-new toolkit. The Buddy Baker's Gray Ghost 1980 Oldsmobile Daytona winner. Doesn't say what race it won on there. It just says 1980 winner. I just realized that. But yeah. So this is obviously a brand new toolkit. It was a Chrysler. Now it's an Oldsmobile. It has the Romback bumper on it. Several other issues we've already talked about with this kit. The decals look fantastic. There's that. And from what I understand, the instructions are pretty clear and nicely laid out, although from what I've also have seen, there are no color call-outs, so you're kind of on your own as to what colors you paint things. Unless, I have not seen the entire instructions, I've just seen like an example of what the instructions look like. Unless there is sort of a Mobius built color thing. You know, if you guys have Mobius kits, the directions on the one side have like a picture of the engine built and a picture of the chassis built and a picture of the interior built, and they're already like painted up. You know, at least Mobius has a color call out of sorts, where it just has a color on the back and lists every single piece that's supposed to be painted that color, which is kind of a little weird when you're trying to like piece everything together at one time, because obviously if a piece is in the kit, it's not any color. That's like, okay, well, now somebody made a printing error here and I don't know what color I'm supposed to paint this for, but they have those pictures on there, which are nice because it sort of gives you an idea of what color you're supposed to paint stuff. You know, I said I want to like this kit. I want to like this mainly because, like I said, this livery, it doesn't really do much for me. But there are some, the aftermarket is already coming on board with decals for this car, and some of those are a little more interesting than this one. We'll see. I just I want to like it, but then again, I'm looking at a company that put "made in the USA" with a small m. I know it's a little thing, but that's the attention to detail. This sort of goes throughout this entire product. Nitpicky, sure, but then you haven't seen the inside of the kit yet. That takes us overseas. There were a couple of releases here and there. At Aoshima, everything is going to be a restock as far as just a straight shelf restock. You have the Toyota Mark II and Chaser GX41 kit. Again, this kit has two bodies, one interior, one chassis, so pick whichever one you're going to build, and you have a free body for spray paint testing. You have the Vertex Ridge Nissan Silvia S15, former D1 Grand Prix car. Now it's just one of those tuned car releases, as well as the reissue of the Toyota 86 Truno Volume 37 edition, which is the one we always tell you guys to buy if you're interested in that car, because it includes every single part that was ever released with the kit. All of the engine options, the interior roll caging options, all of the different things that come with that, that came with this series, are all in this one box for $25. So unless you're trying to build just a very, very factory stock one for the Volume 1 comic book version, this is obviously the one to go for. Then out of Fujimi, you had one reissue so far this month, and it is the Suzuki Hustler in the white pearl metallic finish. It's just a weird car. It looks like a Fiat had a baby with a Scion that was also related to a Cube, but it's a very, 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 very popular car in Japan, which is why it's been done both as a 1/24 scale snap-tight kit from Fujimi and a 1/32 scale snap-tight kit from Aoshima. The white one, aside from being obviously easy to paint another color because it's white, and it's molded in white, not painted white, is the fact that this kit actually has a small sheet of actual decals involved. So the first two kits that came out, the orange one and the blue one, only had like Mylar press-on stickers. This one does, for like the plate, the Suzuki logos on the front and the back, the dashboard, a couple of dashboard decals, has decals. It also has all of the press and stick decals with stickers as well, but again, decals. So I'm always, I did pick up this one. I wanted to get one of these kits anyway because, hey, it's just odd and it'll look good in my Japanese stash of stuff. But I didn't want to pick up the one with because I don't buy things without the intention of building them, and I didn't want to build a car that is nothing but Mylar stickers. So this one has decals, and I'm thrilled by that. That'll leave us with a couple of Hasegawa releases to round out this video. First up, from last month, this actually came out and I didn't notice it, but it did come out, is the matte vehicle with matte female crew. The car behind it, obviously, is a Mazda Cosmo. The Mazda Cosmo, in and of itself, is the same Mazda Cosmo that Hasegawa has done a gajillion different ways. It is the 1968 version. It has a few different pieces in it, like the great big whip antenna and the spoiler on the back, to make it the Ultraman matte series car, and it includes this resin female figure, and she is in the pose you see on the box art. Matte, for people who don't understand, is the Monster Attack Team. Yeah, it's obviously a manga anime type of deal, but when Godzilla would attack you, this would be what would come and try to stop it. This is obviously a conceptual fantasy world type of deal, but then so is Godzilla and Mothra and Gamera and all the rest of that stuff. So in that genre of having monsters that attack Tokyo, there needed to be a defense type of deal, and that's what this is. So, God bless the Japanese wackiness. There are, of course, other ways to get Moths to Cosmos if you don't want the roasted figure, but it's an interesting option for you. Also, this is a release from this month in the, of course, portrait setting. Here is the Jaguar XJSC V12 Cabriolet. This is a reissue, and the last one of the reissues of the original series of kits. Obviously, we just talked about there being a September release of a different livery of the TWR race car, but there were 4 kits done originally: the XJSC V12, the Cabriolet, the TWR race car, and the TWR street car. They've released everything up to this, and this is the last one. This does come with a left-hand drive dashboard, left-hand drive wiper setup. I'm not so sure where they decided to get this kit from as far as deciding to put a left-hand drive thing in it. But hey, you know, if you want one, there's that. It's a kind of a cool kit. It is full detail, so it does have the V12 and all that sort of thing in there. The XJS Coupe is supposed to be a 4-seater. This is a 2-seater because in order to make the convertible work, they had to take the back seat out of it. But it's a cool kit of a classic 1980s Jaguar. And again, like I said, it completes the reissue cycle of those kits. So in 2028 or so, when we're talking about them getting reissued again, we'd be like, well, those haven't been reissued since 2018. And then the last reissue for this video is the Subaru Impreza World Rally Championship 2005 Rally Japan issue. The kit is a little less than the Tamiya kit. It's not a great deal less, you know, but the Tamiya kit is what the Tamiya kit is, and the Hasegawa kit is what the Hasegawa kit is. You know, I can't complain about this kit, but it's just... there was a Rally Japan version, of course, of the Tamiya rally car, but it was for the 2004 Rally Japan. The 2005 car is for the Monte Carlo Rally. So, you know, livery-wise, this is the, without going aftermarket, this is the only way to get the Rally Japan decals for 2005. And they also released the photo etch set for it, which includes wiper arms, brake rotors, wheel hubs, and a few bits and pieces here, like the hood tie-downs and the vents for the front bumper. And I believe, if I am correct, looking at all of that stuff, that will wrap up this one. It's going to be a longer one, but, you know, you have the option to skip the beginning complaining. So anyway, bye to the people who don't like these types of videos. Because the Oldsmobile has managed to once again divide the modeling community, because there's a contingent of people that just can't admit that it's not that great. It's not that bad. It's just not that great. And God bless them. They really put a social media presence out there, and I think that'll work out to their advantage, at least on the short term, because a lot of people have that weird thing where, ooh, the model company talked to me, and so now I'm loyal to the day I die, not realizing that, of course, they talk to everybody, because that's the whole point. I am, from what I understand, the run of those kits was supposed to be 3,000, and it was bumped up to 5,000 because they got enough pre-orders of them. And they are saying, at least on their website, that they're almost out on their end. So that will not be like, oh my god, go panic, buy one. But pretty quickly, you won't be able to get one directly from them, because they are not going to reissue it in that livery. It is a run of 5,000 specifically for that livery. There will be other Oldsmobile kits coming in the future with different liveries on them. Again, Richard Petty certainly one that they're trying to get done, but the licensing apparently is a little bit of an issue. And you know, it's good. You know, again, I would never tell you not to buy something. I'll just tell you what I wouldn't buy. And right now, as it stands, I would not buy this. That may change with the Monte Carlo and the extra pieces to fix a lot of the really glaring problems with just completely and totally inaccurate parts. It's one thing where it's like, oh, well, again, this is not quite the way it's supposed to be. No, this is flat out wrong, and everybody knows it's flat out wrong, and it's so flat out wrong that they have to tool up new pieces for an old kit and a new kit. So we'll see how I feel about it once the Monte Carlo comes out. Hopefully the Monte Carlo, like I said, is a much better kit, only if for no other reason than I don't want to buy another subpar kit to fix the really subpar kit that came before it. You know what I mean? Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys on the other side.